Right, okay, what about the aforementioned G2 then? 'Cause that's obviously the top 4 team that we haven't discussed yet. Right, here's the only thing I have with this team is every time I think they're not that good, they do actually have like a good win where I'm like, no, maybe I have to give them more credit than that. You know, they are a better team than I expect. My problem still, Dom, I can't get off this, unfortunately, is this is the team where of all the top 4 teams, I mean, Misfits aside, obviously, unlike Rogue, unlike Fnatic, I can't say Vitality because I've never really seen a really coherent Vitality, but unlike Rogue and Fnatic, I've never seen a really impressive ceiling to this team yet, still.
Yeah.
Like, I've even thought over the last few weeks, since obviously you always big him up, I've even thought, even Broken Willard's had a couple of dodgy games these last few weeks, mate. He's had a couple that looked a couple of screamers.
I can't remember. Let me look at
Before that, I was with your take. I did think for like the first 3 quarters of the split or 4/5 or whatever, he was pretty much one of the most consistent players on the team, was generally doing well, you know. He's had a couple that looked like he showed a little bit of weakness, I thought.
I mean, I guess it depends on how far back you're going. I think that this game, the final game against Rogue, I think that was a questionable game. But before that, you had the Trinimir game.
Like, shouldn't he basically have been heavily ahead in that lane against Odoam there?
So he should have, and then he made a decision. So it wasn't so much about skill; it was just like a decision, which I guess you could factor into skill. But like, he almost killed Odo. He should have got a solo kill. He actually fucking
yeah.
Solo
You almost had him right.
He should have flash autoed instead of flash Q. If he was going to go for that solo kill, or he should have just not flashed and taken the other guy's flash. He could have gained more off that. And then once he got the push in, he saved his TP instead of TPing back. So he was kind of like playing more for like, oh, maybe I'm going to have to TP somewhere on the map, instead of what he probably should have done, which is just TPing back to lane and continuing to have that pressure. So he let himself off the hook. I think that game was also a weird one because they failed the level 1 invade. That was when they tried to level 1 invade topside. Jankos died. Suddenly Jankos was super far behind. I mean, Hecarim versus Xin, if Hecarim gets early kills, it's massively Hecarim favored.
Sure.
So I kind of didn't view that game as, I mean, I guess the whole team looked kind of bad, but I didn't really view that game as, oh shit, like this team is underperforming or this team is playing terrible. I just think that they were too obvious in what their plan was. They did something earlier in the week. They did the same thing the game before versus Vitality, where they were playing same jungle matchup, Zen versus Hecarim. They did the level 1 invade topside, then they just ran it back. And this time, Trimby was just sitting there at 1 minute 40 seconds. The support is topside. The wave is crashing bot, and the support is literally sitting in a fucking bush topside, or like sitting behind a wall topside, ready to capitalize on the late invade. So they really got read like a book in this game. But I don't think that took away from my impression of BB. And then if you look at his last 4 games before that, he had the Tryndamere game where he shit all over Alphari. Right?
That's true.
Like, he had that game. Then he had the 2 Auction games where he did really well. One versus Adam, where he was super far ahead. The other one versus Finn, where he was super far ahead again. And the game before that was the Tryndamere game where he solo killed here 3 times in lane, and then that was the infamous throw. That was the G2 versus Misfits throw. So when I look at their overall games, I still feel like he was, I mean, one of the best. He's definitely a top 3 top laner in LEC in my mind over the course of the split.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think that he fell off personally. Like, I think that he played pretty
No, I'm just saying I saw some weakness. I saw a couple of games that looked a little bit more questionable, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, when I look at G2, my biggest issue is that they don't know how to close out games. They don't know how to win games. They always look sketchy in like the mid to late game. They always look like they're unsure of what to do around a Baron, or like they don't know if they want to contest the soul, or they're splitting and TPing at a time where the other team isn't ready for the TP. It never feels like they just control their victories and like just win a game flat out. The same way Fnatic does, for example, when they're ahead. Same way Rogue does when Rogue is ahead. Like, if you look at how Rogue closed out the game against them, that 26-minute win, that was clean as fuck. Like, they were ahead, did everything right, closed the game out. They pretty much, they were winning from when they countered the level 1 invade pretty much until the end of the game. There's small hiccups, but like for a Western team, I think that this is like one of the cleanest games you're going to get right now in spring. So I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that polish that Fnatic and Rogue have. And I think that that's really scary, because if you're playing a best of 5 as G2, you can't afford to throw one of your wins, because you're not going to win enough early games. You're not going to get ahead in enough games in a best of 5. Generally, I mean, this is obviously, it is possible to just shit on a team early game every single game, but you're generally not going to get ahead enough in a best of 5 to withstand throwing games versus a team that's arguably better than you. You're going to have to know how to
Rogue
win your
taught
wins.
us. Yeah, exactly as Rogue taught us. Like the joke was they had to just get so far ahead that it was impossible to throw last year, right? That was their whole fucking storyline. And guess what? That does not work in the playoffs. Anyone who's seen playoff League of Legends knows historically the opposite trend is better. It's actually better in the playoffs to be the team that's slightly weaker in the early game, but just knows how to scale and close the game out. Like you will just win more series. This is one factor though that I actually think this is one of the reasons I sort of maybe I'm starting to come towards players where, you know, like for example, Alfari was like bigging up G2 as well. I think Fnatic and G2 were the ones he was like bigging up. Here's one factor I do think is underrated for G2 going into the playoffs. I was saying this on my other show as well. One of the ways that it's so interesting, right, is people have gotten so used to that meme to shit on Jankos and act that he's the reason you lose. That like the joke is, people almost haven't noticed, dude, this guy had like a sleeper, like pretty good split. Like he just had like
really
a
good split.
Yeah, like he wasn't ever bad in the team pretty much. He almost never like fucking cost him the game. Yeah, listen, he wasn't going to be like the MVP of the league, but like he was just consistently, like again, the floor for this guy is really legit. And let's be real, you think of some of the people in the playoffs, right? Razork's barely ever played playoff League of Legends. Obviously, it goes out saying Zlatan's played fuck all, and then it's not like Malrang's played in Europe. So, dude, like low key, Jankos he's going to get better in the playoffs if anything. This guy's a mega veteran. I actually think that factor really plays in G2's favor.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little thought exercise where I was trying to rank Jankos, and I came to the conclusion he was just the best jungler this split.
I think that's fair. Yeah, because remember, Malrang did have like amazing teammates. Razork shouldn't even be in the convo, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. And then you look at the other Synchron's on the worst thing. Like, I think you're right. On paper, he might actually, in isolation, you know, not looking at the wins, just in isolation as a player, he might be the best jungler. He looked like mega polished and controlled all round game. Yeah.
And there's things that the thing that about Jankos is, if you want to know what classic Jankos looks like, go watch the Vitality versus G2 game again and look at Selfmade just sitting there farming. And just think about what Jankos is doing with his time. Sure, to the untrained eye, they're just even in farm. Like, oh, both junglers are just doing whatever. Jankos late invades, right? He puts the enemy jungler behind. Then his bot lane needs a push out. His bot lane is not actually playing well in this game. His bot lane actually kind of fucked up their lane. He goes bot lane. He's there for the bot lane to push out. Then he runs back top, and he's back top, and he's getting the top lane ahead again. Like, he did so much. And not only what was this happening, like, after the top invade, before he even got bot, he actually pressured Alfari, forced Alfari to actually take like a trade that he didn't want to take, like just a melee auto trade versus Tryndamere, and he released pressure from topside. So he's like releasing pressure all over the map. He's doing so much to just stop the buildup that's happening from laners misplaying.
And it's the same farm, like you say. It still gets the farm anywhere.
Yeah, and he's still the same farm. So he's actually performing so well in most of these games. I mean, unfortunately, this last game versus Rogue, I mean, he just got so far behind from the level 1 invade. Like, it was a bad idea to do the same cheese that he did on Selfmade to Malrang. He should have found another angle in that game.
I mean, the logic was, though, right, if it worked, you also then put Malrang in such a bad position, he's probably fucked for the game, right? So it was kind of like a worth the gamble, maybe.
I mean, so like the thing is, it's such a naturally good play because the way you see it is like, okay, we have Tryndamere level 1, we have Xin level 1, we have ochs on level 1, we have Xin level 1. And the other one, it was Tryndamere, we have Xin level 1. You have these champions that just win the 2v2. So like that's just a play where if no one else comes, which normally the mid laner can't come, he'll lose too much experience mid. And the support being top is something you don't really think about. You're like, why would the support be top at this time? Like the support might be top early, drop a ward or something, but he's not going to be sitting there waiting for us at 130. He has to be in lane. Now, I don't even know if his bot lane actually messed that up. I would have to like look at the pro view of bot lane and see, did they zone properly? Because in that game versus Rogue, Comp lost nothing off of it. Like he played the lane, he was just completely chilling. Somehow he's still winning bot, even though his support used both summoners, used flash and ignite, and was top for the first like minute of the game. So in this situation, like I can't really fault Jankos too much because it's something that you don't expect if you're looking at the game from a normal viewpoint. It's something that's good. Like if you play a solo queue game, this is what you do. This is a good way to try to get a lead. It's just that when a team has that prep, when a team's willing to sacrifice like that, then it becomes less good. And honestly, the result might actually be okay if the bot lane is able to exploit that lead. Like having no summoners on your Galio bot lane should be something. Like it shouldn't be just that your support roams top, uses both summoners, and is there for a minute, and bot lane is chilling. That should not be. It shouldn't just be like, oh, that doesn't matter. Like
you make a play off it, right? Yeah, you figure something out.
Well, I mean, you zone them off CS. You're able to just win a trade straight up. They were losing trades. How are they losing trades when they're the ones with the advantage in summoners. Like, what the fuck is happening? So, to me, the result might not even be that, like, you should not go for that invade there. The result might be that the bot lane actually just needs to run away with the game because of that. They just need to dick the enemy bot lane into the floor, knowing that they just don't have the resources. They expended all their resources to fuck over the jungler. And yeah, I mean, then Jankos is just super far behind, and the bot lane is not ahead. So I don't even hate that. So overall, my point is that Jankos is doing so much of split. I think it was another fucking insane split from him.
Great.
Overall, his lanes didn't even play super fucking well. There was games where Cap scented. There was games where Flocked and Targama scented. BB inted every now and then. He was probably the strongest like laner on the team in terms of just like 1v1, 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 2v2, all that stuff. That being said, like, without a jungler like Jankos that's reading the map like this, team doesn't function. If you put Selfmade on that team, nothing's happening.
No,
teams maybe not making playoffs.
And also, as much as it might hurt people's feelings, fuck do I care, mate? Do something about it. All I'll say is this: if Jankos was on Vitality, mate, that'd be a whole different fucking story right there. By the way, that move alone, there's the player that fucking completes your team and makes everything work beyond that. This is why he will, no joke, partly because he's memed on himself and partly because he's the jungler. The jungler always gets blamed. Low key, this guy is one of the greatest players to ever play from any fucking region, but he'll never get his full flowers, I've noticed. Like, he's always going to get somehow, he's always going to get memed on, or people just, I mean, the other part as well, I will say, is it's obviously harder to see when the jungler's doing brilliant stuff. Like you just said earlier, like, you can't always tell. Well, what did he do? Look, the score is the same on the scoreboard. Yeah, but look at what he did on. So basically, Dom just explained, he essentially got 2 of his fucking lanes ahead and then farmed his jungle. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
He's a fucking miracle worker.
Sometimes it's not even getting ahead. Sometimes it's just keeping them from dying, keeping them from being fucked. Like, he's reading the lane. Like, he looks at the lane and he knows, like, oh shit, I need to be there for you to crash this wave. And then he's just going. You know, he doesn't even think twice. Whereas like other junglers are like, do I need to go to that? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could push it in alone and then something ends up happening and the game becomes tragic. Like, he controls the entire game. That's super fucking important. And here's the other thing. Obviously, people will make fun of his like Lee Sin and his Nidalee. His mechanics are actually not that bad. Like, his mechanics are pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. He's fine mechanically. He's pretty good mechanically still. Jankos is just a fucking monster. Like, he's just really fucking good at the game. He doesn't have the attitude of somebody. Like, if you were to compare, like, I mean, the obvious comparison, because it was there for so many years, would be Selfmade. You compare, like, Selfmade's attitude and, like, that edge that Selfmade has, you would just think that Selfmade is better than Jankos. No, nowhere close right now. Nowhere close. I think Selfmade can be better in a certain meta on a certain team that's specifically around him. But if you're plug and playing into different teams, like, Jankos is going to be the better player like 9 times out of 10.
Here's the analogy for you. You know how, Dom, if you ever go on like Instagram, there'll always be really beautiful women, including in esports, where they obviously look really amazing. So the whole meme is that they make fun, like they always purposely post a picture of themselves looking terrible, like doing a really silly, like a dirt face, like,
oh no, that's again.
You know when they do that. But the premise goes, you only do that if you're good looking. That's the premise of what Jankos is doing, you idiots. The reason he's fine with you all memeing and going, wow, I missed another spear, it's because the joke is actually, the reason that's funny is because he's actually really fucking good. And he very rarely is actually bad. Like, the other thing about Jankos to me is this. I'll agree with it. Look, if you remember at the beginning of his career, he was like a mechanical fucking leasing boss, etc. Like, listen, he's not doing that very often. But like, I'd just go the other way. How often do you ever see him mechanically fail in a game? Like, he's one of those people that reminds me of, it's a bit like, I always thought Diamond Prox was like this. It's like, you don't even notice mechanics as a factor for them. They just can execute everything they want to do. And because they're so smart, they never need to have, like, they don't have to do like 27 outplays in a game. They're just in the right position ahead of time. They make the right thing. They execute all their spells. They correctly kite or whatever. They get in, they get out. Like, they just know what they're doing at the role. It's actually a role where I have to say, as much as like it's going to hurt people's feelings because everyone loves pop-off junglers, it's really not that important that your jungler can pop off. If you notice, most of the times where it's like the jungler must pop off, that means the rest of the team's fucked. That means, you know, I can say we don't have any laners that can win us the game. Like, Jankos plays exactly how you'd want him to play if he had a top team. The problem is this, Dom. If we now put it to the playoffs, I also don't think G2 can win the league. And the reason why is this. Because look, even if they get lucky and somehow Rogue collapses, that doesn't even mean they'll beat Rogue. And I don't think they'll beat Fnatic if they play Fnatic. So my problem is this. I actually think they have so many factors going for them that with Vitality's collapse and then the fact that Excel's a bit up and down. Listen, there's a world where I could see them coming third. I actually think probably that would be my prediction, that they will come third. But I don't think they'll be in the final. I don't think they will win personally.
Yeah. And then on the point that you said earlier, like I agree with all that. But on the point you said earlier about like, you know, the fact that he doesn't really play into like all the stuff he does well, I think that it's also things that like the community as a whole would not really understand, and it would just come off as him being like really fucking defensive. If he tried to get into like, actually, like, you know, this spear like wasn't that bad to throw because like it's just a free spear. Like you can just miss a spear here. It doesn't matter. A lot of people wouldn't throw this spear. I just throw it because there's actually no downside to it. Or if he just talks about what he does in game, like the reason why he's not super fucking far ahead and carrying the game is because like he actually has to go bot and crash this wave, and it's actually more important that he does that than get his Gromp and his Wolves. Like all the finer points of the game, he does so well, and they're most things that people don't even begin to consider. There's almost no point of him trying to like prove to the community that he's actually fucking good. Like,
also, why bother? Why give lessons out for free? Just even let the opposing jungler think, yeah, I'm just an idiot. I missed a spear. That's why you won the game. Yeah, that's why, son. Yeah, you won because I missed that spear. Like, fuck off, mate. Like, you probably won for some other reason completely.
Yeah.
Okay, what about this then? Yeah, go on. Do you have a foul point on that?
No, just the one thing I would say is like, just imagine being somebody who's playing against Selfmade, like, or playing against Jankos. Like, imagine being Selfmade in that game. This game that we were discussing from Vitality and G2, where you want to be able to use your mechanical advantage over the guy. Like, Selfmade is still a better mechanical player than Jankos, and you want to be able to use that. But then the game is so fucked because you're getting invaded. They didn't even know they were invaded. He went to his top side. Selfmade had 2 points Q. He didn't even have a point of his E. He can't even gank on Hecarim because he's playing to full clear, and suddenly his whole top side is gone. It's like, oh, this fucker took my camps. And then like the whole game is just so fucked. You never actually get into a place where you're comfortable because the whole thing starts being it's you just start from super far behind. So I don't know, man. Like, these are the types of things that just make Jankos great in my eyes. Like, he's just really insane player. But yeah.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.